All right, so Tucker Carlson, one of the largest and most effective white nationalist propagandists in the entire United States, has been having a rough couple of days. And he's been having a rough couple of days because obviously we got the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial. And the verdict showed that Derek Chauvin did indeed murder George Floyd, as we all got to see, unfortunately, in broad daylight on camera for the entire world to see. And so we all saw what happened. We all know that Derek Chauvin was a murderer. But Tucker Carlson, being the type of person that he is struggling with this and struggling with it in a major way. So he did a series of interviews, or I have a couple of clips here that I want to show you of him throughout the last couple of days, just devolving into the Joker and literally completely losing his mind over some basic facts that are laid out by this former New York corrections officer, who is who he's being interviewed or interviewing in this clip. And he was just laying out basic facts, and Tucker Carlson freaks the fuck out and ends the interview, as you're about to see. So let's go ahead and watch this.
Are going through the windows of Macy's, and the cops are just standing there. Do they resign
No.
because obviously their honor is being violated, but they're not doing anything about it? When do they start doing something about it and protecting everyone else, not just George Floyd?
No. I want people to protect. I want the police to protect people. But when specifically what we're dealing with a person in custody who was handcuffed and he was subdued.
Right.
At that point, we have to take a different tact. And one of the things I just want to suggest,
Well,
Tucker,
I'm
there's
totally
a
willing
thing.
to believe that. Yep.
Yeah, the U.S. Department of Justice came out with a position paper on positional asphyxia and sudden death. It was published in 1995 and again in 1998. I think every law enforcement officer should read that. It should be read at roll calls. Because what it does, it talks about the physiology of a struggle. Now, like I said, Mr. Floyd was brought under control. What should have happened at that point is EMS should have been summoned, and he should have been placed in an ambulance. And a supervisor should have been called to the scene. I just think that it was excessive, and it shouldn't happen. And what I'd like to say,
the guy who did it looks like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I'm kind of more worried about the rest of the country, which, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up. So that's more my concern. But I appreciate you coming on, Ed Gavin. Thank you. Nope, done. Thank you. Heather McDonald is the author of The War on.
Okay, so, yeah, that's the first clip. So the first clip you see there, obviously Tucker Carlson cuts him off there at the end, abruptly, like, okay, you're done, get off my show. And obviously that was in response to this police officer who Tucker Carlson invited on his show, obviously thinking that the police officer was just going to be, playing a part in his propaganda and feeding into the narrative of like, oh, well, Derek Chauvin, maybe he shouldn't have been found guilty, or he was doing the best that he could given the circumstances. And the former New York corrections officer just accurately points out the very basics, basic facts in the case. George Floyd was already subdued. He was already in handcuffs. Derek Chauvin continued to put pressure on his neck, continued to do it even after George Floyd had passed out. And this is not part of police procedure. This is not normal. This is not acceptable, even to other police officers, as you see. And Tucker Carlson can't accept this. He can't accept the fact that even right-wing police officers are siding with the results of this verdict because it was very obvious. I mean, you really cannot be on the wrong side of it. You have to twist yourself into such ridiculous pretzels in order to justify what Derek Chauvin did. I mean, the entire world is in agreement with this on the basic facts of this case, except it seems like a small fraction of some of these pundits like Tucker Carlson or Steven Crowder or whatever the fuck. They're having a difficult time with this. And I mean, it just shows you how quick he is to bail on interviews and stuff when he gets even moderate pushback. And the maniacal laugh, I mean, I can't even say anything about it. You guys saw it. We all saw it. This man is out of his goddamn mind. And so I have another clip here, which also ties into his white nationalist rhetoric that he often deploys, where he is kind of alluding to the white replacement theory in this clip and doing another maniacal laugh and freaking everybody out in the process. So let's go ahead and hear what he had to say in response to Ted Lieu's pretty moderate tweet here. So,
Quote, "Dear Scott Perry, native-born Americans like you are no more American and no less American than an immigrant like me." Good point. We agree with that. And then he said this, "And with every passing year, there will be more people who look like me in the United States. You can't stop it. So take your racist replacement theory and shove it. In other words, you're being replaced, and there's nothing you can do about it. So shut up." Luckily, with people like Ted Lieu in charge, shut up.
Yeah. Okay, man. I mean, holy shit. Yeah. So you see the laugh there again. And really, I mean, what Ted Lieu was saying there was not controversial at all. And this, again, plays into this white replacement theory that Tucker Carlson has been alluding to, especially in the last couple of weeks. He's been really hammering home on this. And this is, a straight up white nationalist talking point that, immigrants coming into the country is somehow replacing the native white citizens, even though, again, if you know anything about U.S. history, white people in this country are not Native Americans, okay? That should be very obvious. We did a genocide. We actually did come forcefully into this country and commit a genocide and replace a lot of people that were already living here. So it's ironic in that sense, but it's also just ridiculous. Immigration is good for this country. It's good for this country's economy. It's good for this country in our cultural diversity. I have no fucking problem with people from all across the world coming into the United States and giving us that diversity and making our country better. What Tucker Carlson has a problem with is he thinks that immigrants coming in, becoming legal citizens, and having the right to vote as functions in democracies, he thinks that that is somehow diluting white people's ability to act in the political system, that is somehow diluting white political power in this country. And it's just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, what he really has a problem with here is just functioning democracy, okay? When immigrants come over to this country and they become legal citizens, they are citizens, they can participate in democracy no matter what fucking race they are. And I don't care what race they are, where they're coming from, or any of that. All that matters is that we live in a democracy and people have their voice and have their say. But obviously what he cares about, as again, one of the most effective white nationalist propagandists in the entire country, is he cares about protecting white political power. And that's very transparently clear with the rhetoric that he deploys in clips like this. So, I mean, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of update. I don't usually do a video or do videos on covering some of these other political pundits because I don't think it's usually that interesting. But this, I thought, caught my mind. And, obviously he's been in the news recently. Obviously he's one of the biggest political figures on the right. And so it's kind of important to keep up with what they're talking about on that side of it and push back against some of these ridiculous narratives. But again, I mean, the maniacal laugh, insane. Tucker Carlson is absolutely losing his mind.